let's have a fair debate. The debate isn't over. Let's look at the costs and benefits of these legislative things.
People have got to wake up and see what's happening to us.
These guys just think they own the monopoly board and they can just keep dumping money into the game.
Number one, I am for going back to the Constitution.
They fundamentally reject the idea that putting guns everywhere is making our communities more safe.
The union's purpose is to represent the workers. When that stops, then that's where your problems begin.
It's time for Montana's only statewide radio talk show, Voices of Montana. Call 1-866-627-5483 to join in. The fastest hour in radio starts now with Voices of Montana and your host, John Arneson.
Hey, good morning and welcome back, Voices of Montana, on your Monday. Here we are, working our way through the month of February, 20th today, and I tell you, this was a pretty nice weekend weather-wise for most of us in the state of Montana, so certainly enjoying that, but of course another cold snap on the way. Big week on Voices of Montana, very excited. Make sure to check out our schedule, our calendar, because we've got a whole week's worth of great news, that's for sure. The Montana State Fire Chiefs Association, that'll be coming up tomorrow. Paul Vallely, Major General Paul E. Vallely, U.S. Army retired, current military analyst. He'll be on Wednesday. We'll have Rob Quist, Democrat, U.S. House candidate. He'll be on Thursday. And then, of course, we will have the special report from Helena, the 65th Legislative Assembly going on. Friday, we will have an update from Helena. Today, we're going to be talking to Lee Neimark. You probably know him as Link, if you know him. He is a Justice Democrat, which is a group that is just underway. They started last month, and he is a candidate for U.S. Congress. So let's bring up Link Neimark out of Kalispell. Link, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me on your show.
You
bet. Kind of exciting to be on the show, especially on President's Day.
That's right, President's Day today. Now, I want to get into exactly what is the Justice Democrats. Now, I did a little bit of reading. Apparently, they are progressive coalition with the Democratic Party. The group was founded in January, formed by the senior leadership of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign, and Cenk Uygur, who is a political commentator and host of a show. It's called Young Turks, and that is on YouTube. It's a news and commentary program, and very socially conservative views. Also, you guys believe in a unified campaign to replace every member of Congress, and you want to rebuild the Democratic Party from scratch. Is that pretty much what the Justice Democrats are?
I think the Justice Democrats are sort of an answer to a couple things that have gone wrong in the Democratic Party. One of which is the Democratic Party has kind of lost their way, where they used to really be the party of the people. They've kind of strayed away from that a little bit, and Justice Democrats is a way to bring them back to address really important social issues that have kind of been neglected.
Would you say that it's much like the Tea Party, just totally on the other side? This would be like the Tea Party, but the left wing of the Tea Party. Well, not of the Tea Party, but does it mirror what the Tea Party tried to do, just in a different way?
Yeah, it's very analogous in as much as the Tea Party Republicans came in and they weren't happy with what the establishment Republicans were doing. So they tried to take the party in a new direction, sponsor their own candidates, even primary, which means try to knock out Republicans in their own primaries if they weren't supporting what they felt were traditional Republican views. So I think the Justice Democrats are doing the same thing on the left side. They're trying to get that establishment Democratic Party to realize why they were supported in the first place, how the Democrats got in, and what they're supposed to do once they're in there. I think that what's happened is that whether on both sides of the aisle, lobbyists and special interest groups have gotten way too much influence. That's how I've got into the game. That's really my battle, because I think people go off to war and they fight for democracy, in the jungle, or they fight for democracy in the desert, but really the next battle for democracy is going to take place in the halls of Congress. And I want to get involved in that battle.
So let's go in your background. Are you native to Montana? I know you live in the Flathead area. Tell me how you got to be politically motivated and why you were starting or actually part of this group that's arising from the Democratic Party.
Okay, so you asked me a couple different questions there. I am not native to Montana. I came up here 15 years ago actually I was hired over the phone to teach skiing, of all things. Came up here 15 years ago. I had never been to Montana. And when I got here, I totally fell in love with the place. I sold my home back in Wisconsin, bought a home here on Big Mountain in Whitefish, Montana, and been here for 15 years and plan to continue living here. It's a wonderful place, and how I got involved politically, I've always been involved politically. I've campaigned for candidates. I've donated to candidates. I've even taken several trips to Washington, D.C. on various social issues, one of it which is housing reform. And with a couple other people, I actually outlined a bill which we presented to our congressmen about housing reform, because we feel it's really important that the programs that exist there to help ensure that 30-year mortgage continue.
So tell me about housing. What is your main concern with housing reform?
Well, my main concern is that the GSEs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they were put in conservatorship in 2008 when the housing bubble burst, and they're still in conservatorship. So that's gone on way too long. That's got to be resolved. And what's happening now is that all the profits that those companies are making, they're actually privately owned companies, and all the profits they're making are being siphoned off to the directly to the Treasury, and that's certainly going to put those companies at risk in case of a downturn. And those are the companies that provide liquidity in the marketplace so that banks can then continue to loan money to people who want homes. And it allows for Americans to get very reasonable mortgages and 30-year mortgages, something that doesn't exist in too many countries around the world. It's a good program. It's a New Deal program, and it's something I'd like to see continue. And right now it's kind of in limbo. So that was just one of the issues that I went to Washington over. And I don't want to spend the whole time talking about that, but it's those kind of programs that are so important. Those are basically, that's a New Deal program. And I would like to see a New Deal. I would like to see us continue to look at what we can do for your average American. For example, we need to invest in infrastructure in this country, just like we did in the old New Deal. We need to put people to work. There's so many things that are gone wrong with our infrastructure. Can't drink the water in Flint, Michigan, and other places. We've got a dam in California that's busting down. These are serious problems that need to be addressed.
Now, of course, Donald Trump is singing that song as well, that we need infrastructure. Are you happy with what Donald Trump has got accomplished so far?
There's some things I really like about the Trump administration. And I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. For the most part, I don't agree with his policies, but there's some things that I think he's on track with, and investment of infrastructure is one of them. I also think that refusing to proceed with the TPP was another very good choice of his. A Trans-Pacific Partnership, like a lot of these big trade deals, benefits multinational corporations, but ships jobs overseas and really doesn't help your average American. Plus, it gives up some of our sovereignty to commissions that are made up of these various countries that we have to then follow those rules. And I think really that laws in this country should be made by our Congress, not by foreign commissions.
Would you say...
So I think he's on track with a couple ideas, and I also like, I got to give him credit, even though, like I say, I don't agree with a lot of his policies. I like how he's right away doing what he said he would do. And I find that refreshing. I think there's just been too much gridlock in Washington, too much pivoting. People say one thing to get in, and then they do another thing when they get in. So I give him credit along those lines.
I'm speaking with Link Neimark, Democratic candidate for Congress, if Ryan Zinke is confirmed. He's Justice Democrat, which is a progressive coalition with the Democratic Party. The group was founded last January. There are some other groups that have formed. One of the groups that has formed, Big Sky Rising, which is Montana-wide, they're very busy in Billings and Kalispell, and you've talked to Big Sky Rising, who is, are they Justice Democrats as well?
Well, I think some of their members are also Justice Democrats. And again, what's happened since the election, I talked about one thing. I said the party has strayed away from their prime values, the Democratic Party, but also they're losing. You know, that this business as usual establishment politics isn't working for the Democrats. So a lot of people, and a lot of them are offshoots of the Bernie Sanders organization. Some of the people that are suddenly politically active are people that have become politically active in response to some of the policies of Donald Trump that they don't like. But there's definitely a lot of grassroots activity going on, and it falls under different group names like Big Sky Rising.
Our Revolution and different.
Our Revolution.
That's more of
sure.
a national one. Hold on just a second. I got to take a break. Then we're going to come back, take some phone calls as well. Lee Neimark, Democratic candidate for Congress. Link, as he's better known. He's Justice Democrat. And we're going to take a break. 866-627-5483. Check out our calendar. Go to voicesofmontana.com and get updated on what's happening. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Montana's local dairy farms provide more than just dairy foods? They also bring economic activity to our communities, including jobs on farms, in stores, and in dairy processing plants. Add that to the delicious, fresh product at your home grocery store, and Montana's local dairies just can't be beat. Thank you, Montana dairy farmers, for bringing us wholesome and nutritious dairy products. Visit westerndairy.association.org to learn more about dairy farming and find new recipes for your family.
What does commitment to community mean? It means giving back to the place we call home. Last year alone, First Interstate gave more than $2 million to local causes and organizations. And we know who needs a little boost, because we live here too. Never mind that we offer mobile banking and a full range of services you'd expect from a big city bank. At First Interstate, our business is still built on relationships. It's bigger than banking. It's you and I together. First Interstate Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
It's called a whiteout, and it requires caution. Snowplows create a cloud of snow that limits visibility for drivers following too closely, oncoming vehicles, and sometimes even the snowplow driver. Be patient. Plows maneuver slowly to clear the roads. As you approach a snowplow, slow down and give the plow driver room to work. Remember, don't crowd the plow. A safety message from the Montana Department of Transportation.
We all know that life can get a little hectic. That's why the mattress you sleep on determines whether or not you hit the ground running each morning. With a Beautyrest Silver mattress, you'll wake up refreshed and ready to go. Beautyrest Silver pairs sophisticated design with intuitive features, like dual cool technology fiber, designed to keep the mattress cool and fresh, and back care support. Embrace the day ahead. Get the sleep you deserve. Get Beautyrest Silver.
Firestone Farm tires are the most preferred tires in America. Not only are they proven to be among the most productive farm tires you can buy, they're backed and serviced by the best trained and equipped farm tire dealer, the certified Firestone Farm Tire Dealer. So whether you need top quality Firestone Farm tires or fast, dependable tire service, count on us to keep you rolling.
Firestone and Tire-Rama, the leader in the field. Only at your local Montana and Wyoming Tire-Rama store.
And we are back. Voices of Montana. Link Neimark, Democratic candidate for Congress, if and when Ryan Zinke is ever confirmed. And we do have some phone calls we're going to get to in just a second. But I want to ask you, you said that you thought that Donald Trump did some good things. And you were talking about housing. What about Dodd-Frank? He wants to get rid of Dodd-Frank. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a terrible idea. I think that there's certainly, like all government bills and laws, probably far too much paperwork, and there may be certain things that can be streamlined, but we need to rein in Wall Street. They just about brought down our economy and even the world economy. I think that we eliminated Glass-Steagall, and that was back in Bill Clinton's time. And I think that gave Wall Street the opportunity to sort of gamble with our economy. And they can profit from that, but it's then we end up paying the bill. Main Street has to bail out Wall Street. And it was so unfortunate, none of those people went to jail that committed all this fraud. In the 90s, there was some game playing, and we had the savings and loan crisis debacle, but at least we sent people to jail for their illegal activities. Now it's too big to fail and too big to jail, and that is not justice.
But Dodd-Frank certainly makes government much, much bigger. But aren't you in favor of a smaller government, or would you like to grow the government even more?
I would like to have a government that serves the people. I think that, to a large extent, government's too big already in that it's involved in things that it doesn't need to be involved in.
Like Dodd-Frank.
Well, I'm thinking more like dropping bombs in Somalia. I think we're involved in regime change wars all over the world. Right now we're battling with 6 or 7 different countries, and I think we need to focus on fixing America before we try to fix the entire world.
All right, let's go to some phone calls. We got some people. We got some people that are waiting to talk to you. Let's go to line 2 and Joe in Helena. Joe, good morning, and thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I have a couple questions, if I could ask you guess them, if I might.
Sure.
Okay, the first one, How much percent of taxes do you feel that everyone should be paying?
How much do you think in taxes, Link?
Well, I don't know what the number is. Obviously, I like to pay less taxes myself, but I think that a progressive tax structure is appropriate. I do feel that if you can afford to pay more, I don't think it's wrong to be taxed a little bit more. I also think that people that tend to have more wealth also take advantage of more of our government services. For example, if you have the wherewithal to be able to afford to fly from place to place via airplanes, well, you get the benefit of the FAA. But if all you can afford is a Greyhound bus ticket, you're not really taking advantage of those services. So I think that wealthier people get more benefits from our society, and I think they should pay more. I don't think that there's an exact number, but a number I will talk about is the fact that 65 cents of every one of our tax dollars goes to the military. And our budget is more than the next 7. We're number one for military investment, more than the next 7 countries combined. So I think that I don't have an exact number for you. I would like to see it be less, and I would certainly like to see a lot of the money that's wasted on the military be shifted to social programs in this country that benefit all Americans.
Joe, you had a second question?
Yeah. Do you have faith, or are you an atheist?
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the questions. Joe, what's your religion, if you care to ask, of course?
Well, sure. I think that I was raised Jewish. Okay, that's my tradition. And my faith is more of I would say more spiritual if I was to describe it. You know, I think that this world's a marvelous place. I think it's a miracle and a wonderful thing that we need to take care of. And along those lines, that's why I think that doing away with the EPA is probably a mistake. It's so funny because the EPA was actually started by a Republican. It was started by Nixon in 1970. He also was the one to really push for the Clean Air Act. So a lot of the things that really are so important to people in this country, it's really not about, is it a Democratic idea or is it a Republican idea? It has to do with serving all the Americans in this country. We're all in this together, and I would like to, just like your show is called The Voices of Montana, I would like to be a voice for Montana, both left and right.
I'm speaking with Link Neimark. He's a candidate for Congress, Justice Democrat, brand new, started in January, and they are a left-wing populist movement, similar to what I would say, similar to the right-wing Tea Party movement. They're just the left wing of that. They're not, of course, anything to do with the Tea Party. This Montana News Minute with Brian Bennett is brought to you by Montana Telecommunications Association, whose members are deploying broadband communication services to rural Montana. Learn more at broadbandmt.com.
$21,000 is a heck of a lot of bull. That's the price paid by one buyer through the first online bull auction held by a ranch in Highwood, Montana. That long-distance sale, and plenty more like it, was made possible by a fiber optic connection to the ranch provided by a member of the Montana Telecommunications Association. This is just one of hundreds of success stories using the Advanced Telecommunications Network. The Montana Telecommunications Association. Learn more at broadbandmt.com.
Methamphetamines continue to make an alarming surge in Montana. Saturday, panelists at a drug summit convened by the Montana legislature said resources are being strained because of a widening prevalence of the drug. Meth remains the drug of choice in Montana and other nearby states because it is inexpensive and so widely available. A state program that requires utilities to buy from small-scale, locally owned renewable energy projects in Montana is facing a do-or-die moment in Helena. Senate Bill 78, which would eliminate the Community Renewable Energy Project program, passed a final vote last week in the Senate and now moves into the House of Representatives. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks has requested $11.5 million in the state legislature over the next 2 years and is creating a new aquatic invasive special bureau. It is seeking public comment on a set of rules meant to help the agency combat the spread of invasive mussels throughout the state. With Montana News Headlines, I'm Brian Bennett.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. That Montana News Minute brought to you by Montana Telecommunications Association, whose member companies are committed to bringing future-proof fiber optic connectivity to practically every school they serve later this year. You're listening to Voices of Montana. My name is John Arneson. Link Neimark is with me, Democratic candidate for Congress. Let's go to Fred in Kalispell, line 3. Hello, Fred.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, this gentleman mentioned Barney Sanders. In my opinion, Barney Sanders is right out of the Communist Party. He mentioned the New Deal and Roosevelt. Well, Roosevelt, he created jobs, yeah, but they were all federal government jobs. The private sector was taxed at 90% during the so-called Great Depression. It did not. It lasted for years and years and years. In fact, the Second World War probably ended the Great Depression because Roosevelt had no desire to end that depression. He did everything in his power to keep it going. He created all government jobs. I'm sorry, this is all a bunch of bull. You know, share the wealth. You know, take from the rich and give to the poor. Well, I'm sorry, that does not work. That's a communist philosophy. I mean, everything you're naming are right out of the planks of the Communist Manifesto. Read the Communist Manifesto. I'm reading a book right now called The People's Pottage. It was written in 1953. It's all about Roosevelt and the things Roosevelt did to this country. He destroyed it. The Democrats took over. The Democrats have been in charge of this country since 1930. Republicans only been in power about 15 years out of the last 70 years. So, now you Democrats are really, you're anti-Constitution. I mean, I look at the voting record of Democrats, then lawyers, 100% of the Democrats in Congress are lawyers.
Okay, Fred.
No way, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate your phone call. Link, go ahead, and I'll let you rebut if you can, what Fred had to say.
Sure. I think there's a huge misconception that if you're in favor of social programs, you're kind of a communist, you know, or a whack job socialist. No, it's not like that. Do you like public highways? That's a social program. That's a socialist program. We all contribute to the highways. Do you like having a military that defends our country? That's a social program. It's a socialist program. How about Social Security? These are programs that government is able to do better than individuals could do. And you asked before about big government. I'm not a fan of really big government, but there's certain things that government can do better than people can do on their own.
But do you think our forefathers planned government to do that? Do you think that was in their mind, to be trillions of dollars in debt and to be bloated like we are? Do you think our founders thought that that's the way to go? Oh, I'm sorry. Got to take a break. I'll be back with that question. Think about that, Link, and I'll be right back.
Voices of Montana continues right after this.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
Call 1-866-627-5483 and join Montana's only statewide radio talk show, Voices of Montana, and your host, John Arneson.
All right, welcome back, Voices of Montana. Justice Democrat is with me, Link Neimark, and we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders in just a second. But before I went to break, I asked him about the founders. I do know that the founders did distrust strong government. Their own experience and study of history, I know, taught them overly powerful governments turned oppressive. But you don't think that way. You think that there's certain things that government can do and they should do.
Well, I think there are definitely certain things that government can do better than I can do as an individual. I gave an example of the highway system. I can't build a highway. A group of us can't build a highway, and I don't think that anyone thinks that people can do that individuals can do that better than the government can do that. But that doesn't mean that the government should just spend money beyond its means. I'm not in favor of that. I think it's a matter of priorities. I think that, you know, you have to decide what's most important with our limited resources, our limited tax dollars, and then spend accordingly. And I think spending on our people and developing infrastructure in our country and creating jobs in our country, which then produces tax revenues, those are the things that we need to focus on. The Iraq War cost over $1 trillion. That wasn't started by Democrats, but I don't blame that on Republicans either. I blame that on people in government that don't put the American people first. They're controlled by the military-industrial complex. You know, someone once said we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. You know who that was? That was Eisenhower. He was a general. He was a Republican president. And back in 1961, he saw that and said, "This is my fear. This is going to be a problem." And I think it has become a problem. And just to give you an example, right now we've still got about over 5,000 troops in Afghanistan, a war that was our longest-running war ever, and supposedly ended 3 years ago. Do you know what it costs us to keep a soldier there per capita? It's an astounding $3.9 million per soldier per year to be in Afghanistan, where we're supposedly not even at war. That's the kind of wasted government spending that I would love to see eliminated.
Let's go out to KMMS country in Bozeman. Curtis, line 2. Hello, Curtis.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to say thank you to Link for being civil and wanting to discuss ideas. One of the concerns I have with the face of the Democrat Party now is just it's so much of the time protesters. It's trying to shut down free speech by either shouting people down or keeping them off campuses. And I really appreciate that you're coming on the radio to talk about your ideas, and maybe we can find some common ground, and I really appreciate that. I wanted to get your thoughts. So groups like, I think it's called Organizing for Action, that was originally sort of an Obama maybe fundraiser for one of the elections, is now, I guess, been reinvigorated. I've read that they have 30,000 volunteers, and that's sort of their tactic, to show up and protest. And I guess I'm all in favor of protesting if it's peaceful and, at least respectful of other people's rights. But, increasingly we see people, shutting down interstates, endangering, people that need to get from point A to point B, an ambulance, for example, or, just refusing to using whatever power they can, for example, on a university to shut down free speech. And I thought wanted to know what Link's take is on that as a Democrat with ideas and a respect for civility.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate that. Bernie Sanders last night in Los Angeles said that he applauds the activism and to continue to resist Trump. I kind of looked at that as maybe a little call, a little pat on the back to everybody that is out there demonstrating. Curtis had a good question. What do you think about the demonstrations and just things going crazy?
Well, I love Curtis's comments, and I think he hit the nail on the head when he talked about finding common ground. Citizens on the left and citizens on the right have so much more in common. Just because you voted Republican or Democrat, we're all facing the same issues. We're all worried about, are we going to be able to afford our tax bill and keep a roof over our head, over our head, and feed our families and send our kids to college, and are we going to have like Social Security? Will it still be there when it's time for retirement age? We're facing the same issues, and I think if we can sit down and calmly talk about these, we can reach logical conclusions that really help the American people. The media and special interest groups would love to drive a wedge between left and right. As long as they can get Republicans fighting against Democrats, and it's like, oh, I'm for the red team or I'm for the blue team. It's a divide and conquer approach, and it's been working in this country. It's time for citizens to work together. Even in Congress, if you look, it's not really the Democrats versus the Republicans. It's the real fight is between the congressmen who work for the people, for their constituents, versus the congressmen who work for the special interest groups. So this left versus right Democrat, it's kind of a smokescreen to keep us fighting amongst each other instead of working toward common goals. Protests, he brought up. Yes, peaceful protest. That's part of the American way. That's free speech in action. I love it. And yet, if you look at what's happening, you take, like, at the Dakota Access Pipeline, they've got peaceful protesters there, and they've been shot with rubber bullets. One woman had her arm blown off with a grenade.
Well, wait a minute. That wasn't a grenade, and there's a debate on what exactly that was, where it came from. What do you think about the protesters when they left, leaving it looking like an outhouse and smelling like an outhouse?
Well, I wasn't on the ground, but if that's the case, I'm not in favor of that. As I said before, I'm all about the environment. This is just, our world is such a special place, and we need to honor it and take care of it and make sure that it stays in wonderful shape. And we need to leave this place better than when we found it.
All right, I got to take a break, but just as long as people realize there's a big difference between a water cannon and a grenade, certainly. High school basketball is here. If you're in Neimark country and want to watch your local team play on TV, you need your game pass from Neimark.tv. They've got game day passes if you just want to catch a game or two, monthly passes, and season passes for the whole year. Go to www.Neimark.tv. Stay with us just a few more minutes, but we are going to have a phone call right after this.
Neimark.tv is here to bring you live high school sports all season long. Log on to Neimark.tv and get your season pass today. Just want to catch a game? No problem. Get a game day pass for only $10. For a list of games, be sure to check out their Facebook page for more details. Neimark.tv. It's your place for Northeastern Montana high school sports. Let the revolution begin.
All right, welcome back to Voices of Montana with Link Neimark, Democratic candidate from Whitefish Country. He's running for Congress. That is, if Ryan Zinke is confirmed, he is a Justice Democrat. Let's go to David, Big Fork, line 3. Hello, David. Thanks for holding.
Hey, that's okay. I'm glad to get on finally. Listening to your guest there, I was under the impression he was running for an office in Montana, but when he's talking, I'm hearing Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, everybody that has nothing to do with Montana. I mean, let's face it, you can't shut down our military, take money away from them. We're trying like heck to build it back up to make our country safe and strong. And as far as taking from the rich and giving to the poor, these are people that work their asses off to get where they're at, and they pay taxes just like the guy that makes $15 an hour. And then when you're talking about the EPA, they have put more restrictions on small businesses than any other agency in this country to shut down people's investments and people's livelihood. We need to step back, look at Montana. Just keep your eye off of Washington. All those people don't give a crap about us. We need people in this state that are working for this people to keep our jobs and our livelihoods going. And all I'm hearing from you is left, left, left. You come off with this, you know, I'm for the right. I believe in Donald Trump, a couple of things. You don't. You're not. I mean, I can see right through you. And Fred nailed it. I mean, you are just like all the other left politicians that run for these offices. And I'm sorry to hear you run it. I wish you wouldn't.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. I want to go to Daryl. Daryl's been holding a long time. I don't want to get off the air without getting to Daryl in the Flathead. Hello, Daryl.
Hello. I guess I agree quite a bit with the last caller there. He admitted he's a socialist. He likes social programs. And it says it all when he says the private sector can't do things as good as the government. What? If the private sector, they couldn't be in business the way the government is. They're broke. They're in debt. That's when the private sector goes bankrupt. And the government just keeps on going. There is no money issue with them. They just keep taking it from the people. The government doesn't have any money until they take it from the people. And to build roads, are we getting our money's worth from our roads that we're paying for?
Exactly.
It's good to hear what he stands for, because if he's elected, we're in a sad state.
All right, Daryl, thank you very much. Appreciate the phone call, and I wanted to get both of them in. Link, go ahead. I'll let you comment on both of what David and Daryl had to say.
Okay. Again, I'm not saying that private sector can't do things right. I'm saying some things government can do better. If you want private sector roads, then you're going to be having toll roads all across the country. And actually, there may be many areas where you can't even travel to because it wasn't economic to have a road built to perhaps Eureka, Montana. So I think there are some specifics that government can do better. As far as issues, Washington. This is a position. Congressman is a position where you come from your state and you go to Washington and you represent both the people and the issues of your state and the country as a whole. So I think we need to take a broad view on that. One of the things that I would do in Washington that I would really focus on, that's a Montana issue, is keeping public lands public. I think that's a huge one. I know right now there's a move to move federal lands into state lands, and then they have the state perhaps manage those or even dispose of those. I like the fact that public lands are public. They're for all of us. And I'm glad that the federal government has to pay a lot of those management costs, like fighting fires on Forest Service land that I don't think the state could really afford to do.
Well, we do have Voices of Montana has invitations out to all 6 of the congressional candidates, of course. So we'll hear from all 6. What's what we plan to do, and we've already had a couple on, and we'll try to get them all on. Looks like we got Carol in Kalispell, line 2, that wants to talk. Carol, good morning. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, John.
Thank you, Carol.
With your person there, I have just some comments I want to make, and I know I'm getting short of time. Number one, Wall Street, he did the same old talking points of Wall Street. Wall Street was some of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's biggest donors, number one. As far as the Social Security goes, the people from our jobs, from mostly private sectors, well, all private sector, because we are the ones that work, pay the taxes into the Social Security, and Democrats have done their level best to empty that out and put us all on welfare. But we paid into that. We paid for that for our retirement. As far as the $1 trillion that you say went into the Iraq War, which I'm not doubting you, I'm sure it was a lot of money. What about the $10 trillion frickin' dollars Barack Obama spent on welfare programs in 8 years? Can you give me anything that happened good out of that? And as far as the coffers go, if people in this country have jobs, the government will survive. But hopefully Donald Trump will get rid of the EPA, or at least break it down way so they don't have all this control. And as far as Democrats go, we're in the shape in this country because of you people. I just thank God that we got somebody elected that is going to give us a half a chance to survive and hold on to our constitutional rights. Thanks.
Carol, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well said, well stated. Final words from you, Link. Why are you running for Congress? Why do you want to be a congressman?
I want to be a congressman because I see that in Washington, the Congress has been moving more and more toward representing the donor class and less toward representing the average man on Main Street. They're all about Wall Street, but not so much about the guy on Main Street. And as far as her questions, yes, I think that Hillary Clinton did get, and Barack Obama did get a lot of money from Wall Street. And I think they, of course, bailed out, Obama bailed out Wall Street. Now, hopefully, but in doing so, he kept our recession from becoming a Great Depression. That said, I think that it's time that we start looking towards bailing out the guy on Main Street, jobs for Americans. I think we can do that without getting rid of the EPA. She mentioned Social Security. Generally, Republicans want to privatize or reduce that. What I want to do is I want to expand Social Security. So again, Carol, I think we agree on a lot of points. And I think it's really important to see that so many people on the left and so many people on the right, if they sit down and look at it, they want the same things. And that's why I want to go to Washington, is to help make sure that those common goals are met. Because right now, I don't think that a lot of the people in Congress are doing their job to meet the common goals of the common man.
Very good. Link, I got to go. Like I said, thank you very much. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. We're going to have another Democrat on, Rob Quist, U.S. House candidate. We'll have all 6 of them on, so just stay tuned for more. We'll see you tomorrow. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to Voices of Montana with John Arneson. The comments and opinions heard are those of the host or callers and not necessarily those of this station, sponsors, or Northern News Network. Join us Monday through Friday at 9:06 for Voices of Montana.
Well, if you ask me where I come from, here's what I tell everyone. I was born by God's dear grace in an extraordinary place where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. It's a big old land with countless dreams, and happiness ain't out of reach. Hard work pays off the way it should. Yeah, I've seen enough to know that we've got it good. Where the stars and stripes and the eagle flies.